religion in the news.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is Rebel, Religion in the News. Thanks for being with us. Jerry O'Lennon, Alfredo Romero, the pastor of Rock of Life Fellowship, joining me as always.
Yep.
Hi there, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I was really fascinated by this story out of Texas. They've approved a new Bible-based curriculum for elementary schools, and heads are exploding.
Wow.
And some of them, I think, are conservatives who aren't pleased with this. Many people who are moderates. The teachers, well, here's what it is. The Texas Board of Education voted, and here's one of the key points. It was an 8-7 vote. One
close.
vote could have swinged it the other way. So it was not a large majority of the school board members that voted for this, 8-7. And this was just a couple of days ago to approve a new Bible-based curriculum in elementary schools. Okay, the other ones were electives that were for late teens, like in the state of Oklahoma. This is for those K through 5th grade. It's called the Blue Bonnet Learning, and it could be implemented as soon as August of 2025. It affects English and language arts teaching material for kindergarten through 5th grade public school classes. Sounds like a victory for Christianity or anybody who believes in religion. All right, Pastor, take it away.
Well, here's what I think. I think we've had years and years and years of saying no curriculum for Bible in the school. You can't pray in school. You can't say Pledge of Allegiance in school. You can't do all that stuff. I think this is just a backlash of that kind of freedom we're feeling lately in America, where you should no longer be a closet Christian. Okay, but now should they be teaching the Bible in school? And I say yes, and I'll tell you why. They have been, I'll give you a few different views. First view is evolution. Hey, we're teaching evolution. This is evolution. This is how we were. I remember being taught that in school. We were Cro-Magnon and Magnon and Neanderthal and okay, whatever. But if they were going to teach the Bible as a creation standpoint, there's a couple of different views. The first one is creation. Why can't they say, there's a few different views on how we were created. One view says there was this big bang. The other view says then there was this life because there was this rock that suddenly became alive. And then there was, creation that way, right? And then there was evolution. We were a fish, and then we were a monkey, and then we were people. And then they say some people believe in what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that there was a creator. If you have an objective curriculum, I have no problem with that as a view as a creation discussion. Now, the second part of that is, why can't we say a religious class? Here's the different religions that are out there. Here's the Bible. Here's the Quran. Because freedom is freedom. And I'm Christian, and the Bible is the truth. That's the only truth. But why couldn't we have a curriculum as a religious class? I do like the elective part of it. But even just if you were going to teach, and I probably more agree with it as a religious studies class, more than just randomly, okay, math, close your math books, open up your Bible. Sounds great to us Christians. But fair is fair and freedom is freedom. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I'm okay with the elective, but I'm okay with teaching the Bible objectively.
Well, I think that looking at the Bible as an historical document is important as well. I think that, just in terms of history, because there was, whether it was, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, whether that was by God or whether that was by a meteorite that came and landed on them. Whatever it was destroyed, and there's now archaeological evidence to support that. There's archaeological evidence to support many things that we've seen in the Old Testament. And I think, if nothing else, it's actually interesting. It's one of the reasons Indiana Jones movies were so. Even today, the original Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in, I think, 1981. So that movie's nearly 45 years old, and kids still want to watch that movie. It doesn't matter how old you are, and there's certainly a religious theme to it. Same with the one that was not the second
Sean
one, which
Connery.
was terrible, but the one that involved the Holy Grail. That involved religion and history, and it was interesting. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you had to be a Christian. A Jew is the one who actually made the movie. Steven Spielberg, and it was a very moving scene when the water gets poured on him and the John Williams music comes up and John Connery's wound gets healed and one of the guys crosses himself. It's a very moving scene, and it was directed by a Jewish man, and people love the film. You could talk about history.
The Last Crusade, that's what it is.
The Last Crusade and the Holy Grail. It could be interesting one thing I have an issue with the Texas thing, I guess, is the age. K through 5 seems too young. Fifth grade. That's 5 to 10-year-olds.
And then the older ones get an elective.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right. I mean, for me, that's kind of where even I'm a Christian, and I think that I like having, like I think I just expressed. I don't like to give my opinion too much on this program, but I think seeing it from a historical perspective is interesting. And as long as the other side is presented, as you say, I think evolution should be presented. And then those are the basic two. It's either evolution or creation. And those are the basic two that are involved. Although there's some who believe there's a combination of the both, that God started it and then things evolved. But generally speaking, well, I know you disagree, but there are those who believe that. And so, but essentially there's two. There's evolution and creation. I think they should both be taught, and I think equally.
Well, proponents for the school board in Texas, the ones that said that should allow the Bible, had a really good point. It's not so much as part of science, but they said one of the biggest reasons was because you cannot deny the influence of the Bible on the creation of this country. When you had most of the founding fathers Christians, not all, but most, the way the country started was when the Puritans came over to escape religious persecution from England. And so it was started as a Christian nation, and there's infused all over our history, whether you're an atheist or a Christian. The point was you cannot deny the influence of the Bible on the creation of this country. So why do you delete that, even if you're an atheist?
And really, even I don't want to say most, but I think probably a good number of atheists believe that there was a man, a prophet named Jesus Christ. Even Muslims will acknowledge that there was a person, a great prophet called Jesus Christ, but they don't believe he was the Son of God. I mean, we don't even need to go there in the schools to say whether or not Jesus was the Son of God. I mean, you could just still talk about the history of it and make one sentence. There are those who are believers that Jesus was the Son of God, and then let it go with that, and died for the remission and atonement of all of mankind's sin, and then let it go with that and not get into a big heated discussion about it. That's the belief of some Christians. There are those who are Muslim who believe that there was a man named Jesus Christ and that he was a good prophet, but that he was not the Son of God and he was not God, and that's what they believe. And of course, there would be pushback from the Christians, but there doesn't need to be an argument about it. Just say this is the way it is. This is what people believe, and we're not here as a school to change your mind or to convince you one way or another. We're just giving you an education as to what the different religions are. I think if it was done that way, I think that most, and there are those who don't even believe that anything, that none of that happened. Would you be okay with that?
You know what? I was thinking as you were talking, I would, with maybe a little addition. I would totally be okay with saying, here's the different religions here. As long as they're saying, and our country was founded basically on Christianity. That's why the Puritans came over. This is what the founding fathers believed. That's why God is infused into the Constitution. So I'd be okay with that. Okay,
but I think there has to be a caveat, Pastor. I think the caveat has to be there are those who believe, despite their reason for coming here was incorrect. There are those who believe that the Puritans who came here for religious reasons and religious freedom, that their belief system is not correct. I think that needs to be done as well.
Oh, sure. I do too. But here's I agree with you 100%. Let me just go a little bit further. The next part about that is that the truth will permeate, and Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. There's only one truth, and that's the Bible. So even people teaching it objectively, maybe somebody might disagree with this, but even teaching these different faiths objectively, I believe that the truth will stand out.
Right. So what you're saying is, and I tend to agree with this, if you present both sides equally on any religious tenet that Christianity generally agrees on, that the Christian way will win the day.
Just because of the spirit of it, because it's the truth.
Well, the spirit, but also I would say more than that, because of the logic of it.
Yeah, the logic as well.
Because I mean, to me, it's not the old saying. Somebody made this phone. I think it was Apple. Yeah. Okay, the company Apple made the phone. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. And same with this mouse, I mean, that's just the way it is. And somebody had to make it. And I think that's how that's the basic argument. How could you make something out of nothing? If you have nothing, you can't make something out of nothing. And that's the argument for atheism. And that's something they can't get past. It doesn't matter how smart the atheist is, they cannot get past that basic fact.
That's true.
And to me, and I think to a lot of Christians, the logic is better that there was a God, an eternal God who always existed in all of eternity, who then created the heavens and the earth.
Yes.
And the cosmos. That makes more logical sense. And so I think that if both sides are presented, the believer faith, whether it's Christianity, whether it's the God of Judaism, whether it's the God of that a supreme being, and we don't even need to say God, we could say a supreme being who some would call God. I think by bending over backwards to at least to try to be fair, I think would work for the benefit. I'm not sure.
No, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm thinking about what would be the best type of way to present this in schools. And I kind of agree with you on the older grades. I kind of believe on that. I mean, I can imagine a religious studies that says, okay, this week it's Christianity. This week it's, Islam. This week it's Judaism. This month, it's whatever. And then you have speakers come in. Let me tell you about this faith. Let me tell you about this faith. Let me tell you about Christianity. And I can see that happening.
As long as there was not proselytizing or trying to put down somebody else's belief.
Right. You can't.
That cannot happen.
This is for education purposes only.
Yeah, and atheism too.
Yeah, and atheism too.
They get a shot as well.
Yes, my point is that this is much better than just saying delete. No, you can't have your Bible at school. You can't wear that shirt. We can't do prayers. We can't do Pledge of Allegiance because it says God. Well, that is in the foundation of our country. You can't just delete things, put it all out there, and I believe the truth is going to win out.
And I think if that did happen, I would imagine that it would bring people closer together because they would have an understanding of what their neighbors believe if it's different than them.
Yeah.
And it would create more respect. It's an interesting discussion. We'll continue our discussion on this Texas approving a new Bible-based curriculum for our elementary schools. That's the thing kind of worries me a little bit, too. We'll be right back.
Rebel religion in the news.
Rebel religion in the news.
All right, welcome back. I'm with Alfredo Romero, the pastor of Rock of Life Fellowship. Our service time's 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, as you can see on the screen if you're watching our podcast. Texas approving a new Bible-based curriculum, which seems to be okay, but it's for elementary schools. I think this is what kind of disturbs some people and perhaps the most. It's worth mentioning the Texas Board of Education voted, it was 8-7. Can't get any closer than that. One vote would have switched, it wouldn't have passed. It is voluntary in nature. And there are people who, the usual suspects, and I think they mean well. I mean, I think when we mention the American Civil Liberties Union, we automatically think, here we go again, But they seem to be making what they consider to be a legitimate point. I'm going to give them their shot.
Sure.
The Blue Bonnet curriculum, as it's called, flagrantly disregards religious freedom, the cornerstone of our nation since its founding. The same politicians censoring what students can read now want to impose state-sponsored religion to our public schools. That's according to Carl Archer, the engagement coordinator for free speech at the Texas chapter of the ACLU. He says, we urge districts to reject this optional curriculum. So the State Board of Education approved it. It's up to each district in the state of Texas to decide whether it wants to do this curriculum or not. It's giving them the option. So it's not required by the school districts. Each school district could decide on its own what it wants to do. It holds a public education that honors the religious diversity and constitutional rights of Texas students. That's what he says that's not happening, according to the ACLU. Well, okay, so that's not really a surprise. You would expect that type of thing. And I think that one thing that I think, I don't want to say troubles me, but would concern me a little bit is that K through fifth grade, again, it's up to each district, and the students can opt out of it. Parents could, I believe, would be able to say, you know what, this is not something that I want. But we're talking about Texas, a very red state.
Yeah.
And each state's going to have it. I mean, this is not something that would even be considered in the state of California. Not even in almost any district in almost any school district anywhere in the state of California would this even be considered, even the conservative ones. So I don't know where to go on this.
Well, I can tell you part of my feeling, the reason why the ACLU has a problem with this. Somehow, they probably do it on purpose. Most people that are atheists or don't believe are a spiritual attack on Christianity. 'Cause to me, it's all spiritual because that's what the Bible says. But listen to this. It happens that the First Amendment doesn't say freedom from religion. If you really read the First Amendment, it's talking about freedom of religion. But somehow the opponents of religion, any religion, especially Christianity, they say it's got to be freedom from religion.
Yeah,
you can't have freedom from. It's not. It's of religion.
They got it backwards.
They got it backwards.
The point of it was designed to prevent the governments from taking over religion, not from religion taking over government.
Yeah.
And that, so they've really got it backwards. But again, there are concerns, and I could see it. I wish I had a better grasp for it. I would feel better if it was in the 13 to 18 age range.
And would you feel better if the classes were electives?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd be okay with that. It's
Right.
better than just complete deletion.
Although I have to say, if you're in high school, you're old enough to be able to say, and it really comes down to the teachers.
Yeah.
If the teachers are proselytizing, that can't happen. And that goes, I mean, even if it's a Christian person who means well and says, let me tell you something, Jesus Christ is the truth, the way, and the life, and that, no one gets through the Father except through me. If somebody starts saying that kind of stuff, that can't happen.
Did you ever see
That's the kind of thing that cannot happen.
Okay, did you ever see the movie? They made a movie about this. It's one of the God's Not Dead movies, and it was with I can't think of the actress's name now, Melissa Joan Hart. She's played Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I would recommend this movie. And what happened was some kid was filming her during class. She's teaching a philosophy class, it's philosophy. And some girl raised her hand and says, well, wasn't Jesus considered a philosopher? And the guy's filming, somebody said Jesus. And I'm just trying to paraphrase a bit. But the teacher answered it very objectively, said, yes, some believe that the Bible teaches that Jesus was not just a prophet, but he was the Son of God. But some people believe he was a great teacher. And next thing you know, they pull this young woman in, and they say, hey, I heard you were proselytizing. You're talking to Jesus about Jesus. She goes, no, the student asked me a question. There's Muhammad, there's Gandhi. And she said, what about Jesus? And I said, well, yeah, some people believe Jesus, blah, blah, blah. And so it ended up in court. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
And that's my problem.
That's the problem. The threat of a lawsuit is what causes the problem, because you could sue somebody out of their home. And that's the problem.
Yeah, it's
so
the
people,
legal.
So people are afraid, particularly if you're a teacher, you might be like, do I really want to get myself into this mess? And I kind of understand it.
I do too. Lawyers kind of ruin everything. Well, almost all of them. Okay. But yeah, it's the threat of the legal stuff and people getting thrown in court just because I said the word Jesus.
Right.
And it's happened before. There are some people that are out to get you for being, and look, folks, the truth is it's a spiritual battle. It's a war of the enemy trying to get us to renounce our faith. But those that stick with their faith to the end is the one that God's going to remember. Jesus says, if you deny me before man, I'll deny you before my Father. So we've got to stick to this fight because it is a spiritual fight. Whether you read it in the news, well, the ACLU this, and these people say no, I'm sorry, it's a spiritual battle. But if you present it objectively, if you say, okay, let's have religious studies class. We're going to objectively have curriculum. This is what the Christians believe. This is what the Muslims believe. This is what the Islams believe. The Hindus believe. I believe the truth will win out.
Yeah, and the problem again is the K through fifth grade. Because think back to when you were in fifth grade. What memories do you have when you were in fifth grade, or even when you were in kindergarten? I have like maybe 3 memories of when I was in kindergarten. I'm not joking. Things. Yes, I remember that. I don't remember. Now I think about the first grade. I remember we were playing kickball and they made a good play and I was happy about it. And that's about all I remember. But I don't remember details. I'd have to look at pictures of my school class, but I don't remember instances. Even going to the fifth grade, I remember maybe a dozen things that happened in my memory. And so I'm wondering if it's really going to make a difference. I remember taking our first sex education class. I was in 6th grade. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And I was like, what is going on? I mean, 11 years old.
Yeah, I'm
You
like,
know,
what's a
you-
fallopian tube? I don't know what you're talking
What are you
about.
talking about? They're drawing pictures up here. I don't know what's going on.
What's going
and
on?
all I'm thinking about is, gosh, I sure hope I get to pitch tonight in tonight's Little League game because this is a big game for me.
I'm
And-
like, the Lakers play at 7.
yeah, Nolan Ryan's pitching tonight. I want to watch the game. I don't care about any of this. And so sometimes I wonder if by doing this so early, none of this is actually going to register with anyone. And of course, maybe it's just me because I don't have a great memory of when I was a child, but I don't remember all of that stuff.
Okay,
I
so-
can't remember any of it.
So there's a couple of views, real quick. One of the views is that, and I would agree with you. I think objectively teaching religious studies to kids, that's pretty young. Okay, now the pastor in me says, "Oh, the enemy's going after the kids really young right now. When you've got drag queen story hour and you've got these lap dances on junior high school people, and they got all this." So the Christian response should be, we need to teach the kids while they're young. We need to train them when they're young, so when they grow up, they won't depart from it. So the Christian aspect of is, hey, the devil's going after them pretty young. We need to do all that we can to make sure that these kids hear the truth, even if it's presented objectively.
I think you're right. I think that's where the anti-Christians have, and I think this is the reason for this type of legislation.
I think so too.
I think that's what's doing it. It's like we want to push back and show you, if, in other words, the old saying goes, we'll do to you what you did to us and see how you like it.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
I think that's what's happening.
I think that's what
here.
it is.
Right. If you just, leave us alone and keep out all of this crazy stuff, we will, we don't have to go here.
Yeah.
And it may just be, and that's one of the things we were talking about last week. Is it okay to seek what we would call revenge, or I'll do to you what you did to me, so you understand what it's like, so it never happens again? And we were talking about whether or not
Little fire with fire.
is that okay in the eyes of God. Is it okay to fight back like that? Or should we turn the other cheek and just say, oh, okay, let him do all these things that are opposed to our religious beliefs in the school system? It's okay because I got to turn the other cheek, or do we have to show you what it's like when we do to you what you do to us?
I'm there. I'm okay with it. Now that we're kind of getting to the point here, I'm okay with that because I get tired of watching these videos with I'm not just gonna say it, with drag queens at toddler shows, and mommy putting in the hands of a 5-year-old a dollar bill to go tuck it into the waistband of a. And so the Christians are going, oh yeah, well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put the Bible in kindergarten,
Right.
through 5th grade, to try to counterbalance what the enemy's doing. I'm like, oh, as a Christian and a pastor, I'm going, bring it on, let's go.
Yeah. And we talked earlier in the week too about what's happening on the football field, where people are talking about Jesus. And I was thinking when we had our guest on the other day, the coach, I was thinking when I remember being 15, 16 years old, nobody talked about anything about politics. Nobody talked on the football field, and I actually preferred it that way. And as much as I get a kick out of people doing Trump dances, I think it's funny, or whatever it is. I find it interesting. It's funny, but I all in all, it would be better if they just played the game.
Yeah.
Stop dancing and just play football. Stop singing and shut up. Be careful what I got to say here. Just shut the heck up and just play football.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate somebody mentioning Jesus Christ on air, but sometimes I'm wondering, I don't know. I kind of prefer the days when my youth in the 60s and 70s where nobody even mentioned anything about that. But then at that time, Christianity was so popular then, and it was so many people went to church that you didn't feel a need to do it. I think that players now feel they have a need to do that because of all of the influences that are coming in outside the beliefs.
Yeah, I think it's a response. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. We're out of time. Thank you so much,
Good
Pastor
question.
Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship. Good discussion. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time, and so long.